course, you know me as Brian by now. Anyways, as you'll notice at the starting of this video, um, what I generally use for my introduction to movies I've bought is the Eye of Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And when I do movies I've watched during the week, it's usually a picture of Hitchcock with a cigar in his mouth with a bird on the cigar. But normally this type of video would fall under the introduction with Hitchcock, but because the title of this video is about apocalyptic science fiction films, I've decided to put Hal as the introduction. So if you're wondering why that is, that's the case. Anyways, I got 5 science fiction movies that are basically apocalyptic in nature in some way or another. And I also have a 6th film. Those are 5 films that I'm going to talk about. And then a 6th film from Iran and or Iran, maybe that's, you say it more so. But all these 6 films I saw streaming. I saw them either on Criterion Channel or on Mubi. And they're sort of similar channels. Criterion Channel, you know, if you're aware of the Criterion Collection, they started their own streaming service last year in like April, I believe it was. Before that, they were united with Turner Classic Movies for a while on a streaming site called Filmstruck that collapsed, and they reorganized under the title Criterion Channel. So, but anyways, I've been enjoying that. I subscribed to that starting in April, I believe, and then I started for a year of subscription in June of last year. I'm really enjoying it, and they show, you know, it just like the Criterion Channel collection. They have foreign films. You know, they have all these special features with, you know, professors talking about the film or filmmakers talking about the influence of the film on them, or you know, how documentaries in the time period that the film took place, and you know, just or just information about like a documentary on the filmmaker, maybe not even related to the film. And in any case, I've got these 5 films. They're science fiction oriented, and the 5th film was on Mubi, which is, you know, just like Criterion. They show foreign, they show independent, they show shorts, they show documentaries, and yeah, so they're sort of the same in a way, but like Criterion is a little farther out. I mean, there's more choices. You know, the movie only has 30 choices a day. It takes one off, it puts another movie on each day. Excuse me a minute. Is just itching me, that's all. So, you know, Criterion, they have like specials on like movie theaters around America, you know, what they show there, and you know, their impact on the community, I guess, around those film theaters. Really great great streaming service. Talking specials on women filmmakers, interviews with filmmakers, a section where Martin Scorsese chooses his movies. You know, there's a Martin Scorsese World Cinema Project box sets, the 2 of them that come out on Criterion. Well, you know, he's also featured on the Criterion Channel. Anyways, so let me get to this. So Criterion Channel decided last month, and again, here I go again. You know, when I do these videos, I talk about movies that have already left their streaming services. So, like, if you were interested in seeing them on the streaming service, you know, it's gone by. except for one title, which is a movie title. But anyways, they chose like apocalyptic science fiction for last month, and they chose some other films that I've seen before, like Clockwork Orange, Westworld. What's that movie called? Demon Seed, Logan's Run. I hate Logan's Run. That's another story. I just think it's just a piece of garbage, in my opinion. I know some people like it, maybe like the novelty of it or the cheesiness, but I can't stand it. I just hate the production design and the costumes and I just hate that movie. I loathe it. But yeah, so yeah, they had that. They had another film with James Caan called, I think it's called Rollerball. I didn't watch that, but that was another one they had. I'm trying to remember all the science fiction films they had, but they were sort of apocalyptic in nature. So the first one I watched was a film called ZPG, which stands for Zero Population Growth. It was kind of cheesy, and I mean, all these are sort of cheesy movies. And anyways, Oliver Reed is in it with Geraldine Chaplin. They're a couple, and they want to have a child, and the world is over. I guess is initially overpopulated, and then they're starting to cut down on trying to procreate, and they're starting to give people fake children, like robotic children. And a lot of pollution has destroyed everything. So they're showing. You have to remember, this film was made in the '70s, so they're showing things like the last cars or whatever, and obviously you're seeing cars from the '70s. So one of the things I'll say about these particular movies, the vast majority of these films, they seem so dated. And the last one I'm going to tell you about, I think wasn't too bad, and I probably was done a low budget too. But I think what saved that film is the style of the film. If you can make the film look a certain way, beautiful or something, I mean that's what makes Blade Runner work. I think because Ridley Scott thought, the future is not going to look like the future that we think it's going to look like. Yes, there's going to be new buildings. Yes, there's going to be new technology, but there's also going to be the old technology and the old buildings. There's going to be stuff that was left behind, so stuff, that we consider new today is old then, will be old by then. And we live in that right now. We live near, the Victorian house right next to a modern building. That was sort of his take on that, if I'm interpreting that correctly, but I think I am. But anyways, going back to the ZPG, so, they're showing all these things like animals that used to live before pollution, and it has some kind of cheesy miniatures and effects and stuff, but I thought it wasn't too bad. And I thought the ending of the film sort of reminded me of Children of Men, which I think is a way better film and sort of addresses the same topic as well, but does it on a bigger budget and does it just, I think it does it better stylistically and visually, and I think it tackles the problem much better. So let me go to the next one. No Blade of Grass, another apocalyptic science fiction movie. This is set in the UK. This family wants to get out of London and go north to this countryside where they can live well. The main character's brother has, I think it's a farm, and they have loads of food to eat there, and they can hole up there and wait it out for a long while as things deteriorate around the world, and there's wars going on around the world, and maybe nuclear weapons, and they're eating all this food, and they're intercutting it with like people starving all over the world, like children emaciated, looking like sort of Holocaust victims looked like during the Holocaust. And I just thought it was kind of cheesy, this movie, and that sort of didn't make me like it. And I thought, I was thinking to myself, so they're making their way up north, and but they're wearing like coats and long sleeve shirts, and I'm thinking to myself, if it's because of pollution, they're going to be wearing less because um, um, it's getting so hot because of the, what do you call that, the ozone layer, the greenhouse gases, that it sort of made me think, is that really realistic? But by 70s standards, I guess it did. And I think in the 70s, things were polluted at the time. And um, I mean, Nixon, I think, was like, he started the Clean Air Act. And things sort of like went back, took a step back, maybe when Reagan was president. And things went back to sort of polluting, but not to the effect that they were for a while in the 70s. Maybe I sort of remembered the pollution in the 70s when I was a kid. But no blade of grass. Bad things happen. Maybe I should have said that, but I won't say what happens. But it's not. It's a kind of unsettling movie. And so ZPG, I guess. Well, ZPG is the less unsettling, but still, these are very pessimistic kind of films. And I haven't thought of. Usually I leave a star rating as to what I think of these films. I think what I'll do for this particular video is I'll list all the films to you. I'll tell you a little bit about them, and then to wrap up the video, I'll show you my star rating. So that's No Blade of Grass. Next, we get to another film called The Ultimate Warrior. This stars Yul Brynner and Max von Sydow. It's set in New York. I think it's New York City. And Max von Sydow notices at the start of the film that there's this guy standing still with his shirt off, and he said, and he lives in this enclosed area with a group of people of New York City. I think pretty sure it's New York City, and there's a rival gang, and it's apocalyptic again. Like food is very scarce, and they're growing beans and stuff on the rooftop. Oh, you know what? I think it was shot in Burbank, which I think the second film was shot in as well. The next film, I mean, that I'm going to list. And so they asked the Yul Brynner character to join them because they think they could use him as a good fighting man and a good resource. The question I had when I watched the film was, why is he standing there? Not just not without a shirt, but why is he just standing there? I mean, wouldn't the rival gang immediately attack him or use him? And why is he standing there to begin with? I don't get it, And I discussed on Facebook with some people on one of the Facebook groups. I was saying, like, maybe Yul Brynner and Max von Sydow. Well, Yul Brynner's dead, but Max von Sydow, maybe they're embarrassed about this film. They want people to forget about it. It really is a forgettable film. The only part I would say that's memorable in the whole film is the ending, with Yul Brynner character and him escaping with one of the characters from Max von Sydow's group from the area where this film takes place. That's kind of interesting, but not by much. Well, a little bit, but this film again is bleak, like No Blade of Grass. So, and I do like films that have unhappy endings, as you might know by watching my channel. But this film was just, I don't know. I guess they're trying to use what they have around them, resources, and trying to make a movie from available resources, but it was just boring, I think. And it's not a film I'll watch again. I'll tell you that much. And the last film I watched off of a movie, not movie, Criterion Channel, was a movie called, I think it's called The Terminal Man. It's based on a novel by Michael Crichton, and it's about this guy who's like a crazy killer, and they take him to this hospital, and they install something in his brain so that whenever he gets the urge to get violent, um, these like a blast of energy or something like that will zap into his brain and stop him from being violent. Um, and there's a computer that's keeping track of him, and it really looks dated. Um, I know it's the 70s. I know you can't predict things that are going to come up in the future, like cell phones and, what a computer will look like, because computers nowadays, they're flat screen, they're very thin. Back in those days, they were boxy and big. But I don't know, it's kind of lame. It was just all these people talking, and they didn't really have much drama, and the way they talked, they were just delivering lines. I thought it was a real bore. And The main character is played by a guy named George Segal, who I believe is the guy on what's that show called, Just Shoot Me, which I don't think is on the air anymore. It was on NBC with David Spade, and I think the daughter of George Segal. George Segal was played by Laura San Giacomo, who I believe was in The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand on TV, the miniseries. Anyways, this film, kind of forgettable. And he escapes from the hospital, and things just don't turn out the way that they thought they would. So that's Terminal Man. That's pretty forgettable. But then I saw a movie off of Mubi, which is still on Mubi till the end of Tuesday, called Kamikaze '89, and this was a really good movie. Again, it didn't have the same production value as, say, a film like Blade Runner does, or Star Wars, or 2001, but it's a style that worked in this particular movie. Fassbinder didn't direct it. In fact, he's the main star of it. He plays a cop, and he's investigating this skyscraper, and in particular this floor called the 31st floor. And at the start of the film, it says, like, in the future, maybe it's not the year 1989. I'm not quite sure on that. It's somewhere in the future. And when the film was released, which I think was 1982, and Fassbinder died shortly after this. I believe he died of barbiturates, and by the time he had died, he had directed 40, I think it was around 50 something films. And he was like in his early 30s. I think I just said that. But anyways, so he's investigating this 31st floor. And in the society that people live in, there's no crime anymore, I think. There's no murders. People are happy. But there's no problems. I can't remember all of the starting, what it says at the start with the titles, but it was saying, like, there's no crime, but like what's introduced into the message of the movie is that if things are just perfect, like it's a perfect utopian society, there's going to be cracks somewhere, and things are not exactly like, without things to solve, without things being a little bit fragmented, maybe things are not for the best that way, if you follow what I'm saying, because maybe people being divided a little bit makes things work a little bit better, because if things were just everybody agreed with everybody and everybody thought the same things, I mean, it says on the description of it on Mubi, it says it's a totalitarian society. But I mean, you know, people have to feel things like sadness and death and all that kind of stuff. And this is a society that's trying to like deny those kinds of things, I guess. So I really enjoyed it. I like the style of it. Like Fassbinder's character's apartment. He has a jukebox in it. I think his refrigerator is like a jackpot machine, and I just like the design of the film. Like one of the characters in the skyscraper uses a Superman phone, a phone that has a Superman model on it, and Fassbinder wears this uh, a suit that's made of leopard skin or cheetah skin or whatever. I just love the style of the film. It's very well put together. I mean, it's just I just really like the look of the movie, and I'd recommend this film. And then so, the last film I recommend is not a science fiction film. It's no longer on movie. It left last night, I believe. It's called Tehran Taboo. It's done with like rotoscoped. I don't know if it was shot on video or film, but it was like it's like animated, but I think it was shot on video or film and then drawn over. And I don't know if it was actually shot in Iran or not, but I've seen some Iranian films and I sort of know what they look like, like what Tehran sort of looks like. I've never been there, obviously, but like what the traffic, what the traffic looks like, through the windows of the cars, and like what the buildings look like on the side, and like what interiors look in the buildings, like apartments and houses and stores. And I really enjoyed it. Like I think it's a more than one person story. Like one guy, he meets this girl. She has an arranged marriage, but she has sex with a guy, and of course, when a woman has sex for the first time, she bleeds, from being a virgin, and then he doesn't want the guy that's going to marry her to know that she's not a virgin, so he's trying to fix that problem. There's one person, a woman, in Iran, women have trouble getting around things without getting their husband's permission, like divorcing or I think leaving the country maybe, or getting permission to do anything basically, maybe even to drive. So this woman is having trouble maybe finding a place to live. So this judge, this Ayatollah guy, he decides to help her out, but she has to do it under the condition that he has sex with her. So that's another character, and there's a prank phone call, and they're able to this prank phone call. These two women, they're teasing this kind of this guy that's kind of nerdish or whatever, and but the authorities can trace the call, and they're gonna put this person in jail for lifetime imprisonment for doing that. So, but I really find Iran a fascinating culture, and what they do, how they operate. It's a terrible way to conduct human affairs, but it's an interesting look into what such a society, how such a society operates. So, but I really enjoyed that movie. That was that was really good. Okay, so now we get to the ratings. This video has gone on for 20 minutes, so let's wrap this up as soon as I can here. So ZPG, I sort of liked. Out of 4 stars, I'm going to give it, let me see, I'll give it, I will give it, I guess maybe out of 4 stars, I'll give it, or 5. Let me give it 5. Let me rate things on a 5-star scale. I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. No Blade of Grass, interesting ideas and everything. I'm going to give it 3.5 as well. Ultimate Warrior, I'm going to give Um, 2.5 star. 2.5 or 3. Um, Maybe I'll give it either 2.5 or 3. How many stars would I give Ultimate Warrior? Um, 3. I'll give it 3. Terminal Man, the probably the worst of the science fiction films I watched. I'll give that maybe 2.5, and then Kamikaze 89, I will give probably 4.5, and Tehran Taboo, I'll give 5 or 4.5, I guess, because the 5-star ones I give like Fight Club and Citizen Kane and Vertigo and Touch of Evil and Throne of Blood and La Dolce Vita 8.5. But those types of films. Okay, so thanks for watching, and see you in the near future. See you soon now, and bye. Again, it happened. I forgot that I have another film that I was going to say, and it's called The Omega Man with Charlton Heston. And I think it's been made 3 times into a movie, and the Charlton Heston version is the second, maybe. I'm not sure. Somebody down there, correct me if I'm wrong. And the third version was I Am Legend with Will Smith. And the story is written by Richard Matheson, who was one of the writers for The Twilight Zone, one of my favorite television shows, if not my favorite television show of all time. But anyways, The Omega Man is about this guy who's like the last in society, the last on the earth, or one of the last people on the earth, and everybody else has succumbed to this illness, and either they've died, I guess, and then some of them have become like zombies, but like instead of zombies that are like vegetable type zombies, like zombies with no brains, these zombies are like they're against science, they're against technology, and they believe in like religion and in the past, or like cult like following, and they don't come out during the day because they can't stand the sunlight, and they come out during the night. And he's holed up in a apartment building in the city in L.A. and just and firing his machine gun whenever he comes under attack by these people, and meeting a few times with them, getting caught by them a few times, and trying to escape, and I found it a pretty interesting movie. It was pretty entertaining. I do have I Am Legend, but I haven't watched it. And I did like it. The music was a little, well, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, the music was pretty good. It was maybe a little dated in some areas. The cinematography was done by Russell Meddy, who I believe did the cinematography for Touch of Evil, if I'm not mistaken. And it did look dated in some senses, like Charlton Heston's apartment. He's a scientist. He knows he made this vaccine, so he doesn't have to succumb to this illness that everybody's a part of. I'm not going to say what happens in the ending, but I don't know. I won't say anything. The one discrepancy I found with this film, if the world is no longer habitable, and he's going down the streets of L.A. and there's nobody around, I saw a shot during the film at the start where if you look really closely, you'll see a car speeding down a road. So that's a discrepancy in the film. So, and my star rating for this, out of 5 stars, I'd probably give it, I'll give it 4.5. So I'm sorry I added this other movie on, but I forgot all about it until I had recorded my video and then was watching it again to see if I had to put any titles in to mention anything. But anyways, I give this 4.5. And now this is the end of the video.